Hello, everybody. Welcome to the VSM Real Estate Podcast, getting you closer to massively successful players in the Twin Cities real estate market. I'm your host, André Anderson. Today we have somebody that has not been on our podcast before, but he's been a recent addition to the VSM family, Joe Maselter, current president and broker.
A massive agent in the Twin Cities market. What am I? Player?
Yeah.
Massive player.
Massive player, yeah. So, yeah, we're just we're really happy to have you on the podcast here finally. Joe joined us probably around January or February, and
Yep, about 6 months ago. I did know you guys before I got here, basically because of these podcasts and all the cool stuff you guys were doing from a social media perspective. So it's interesting to be on this side of it for once.
No doubt. Welcome. So I'm glad we could kind of entice you to join.
Free Chipotle will entice anyone.
No doubt. So, yeah, I know you kind of had been in different brokerages before. Can you kind of give a little bit of brief history about how you maybe got into real estate? I know you were working at Target before. A lot of people start, and Target to get into real estate and
that's
everything like that.
Natural progression.
No doubt.
Most of my friends went Target to real estate. So I got into real estate mainly for the purpose of making daycare money. My son was coming to this world, and we were looking at, $1,800 a month in daycare bills, and I thought, how are we going to pay for that? So I also just liked the process when we bought it. I thought it was interesting. I liked the different tactics of negotiations and things like that. So I had the opportunity to get my license. One of my friends, Spencer Hutton, who's at Engel & Volkers now, introduced me to MLS Online, and they had a good lead program. So got started as a part-time agent while I was working at Target, and realized very quickly that it is not a part-time job. You start with one client and it can be a part-time job. Now you get to 2 and 3 clients, and all of a sudden you're working full-time. So I did both for a little while, and then my son was born, and I had to make a decision whether I wanted to be in real estate or retail.
Right.
And I actually chose retail.
Did you?
Yep.
Okay.
So I stayed at Target a little bit longer, and then realized I made the wrong decision. Although Target treated me very well, and I love the people that work there. But so then I ended up getting into more of the downtown market at Downtown Resource Group, which I used to think VSM was the DRG of St. Paul. So again, just interesting that I'm here now. Got in with who was my agent at the time. We worked together at DRG, mainly focused on condos and lofts. Most of my natural network was buying single-family homes and that type of thing. But we grew out of that a little bit, started our own deal across the street. We were there for a couple years, and then over the last year, I was at RE/MAX on the pro team. So shout out to them. They were wonderful to me. Ryan Fisher's great. And then Daniel Kurkowski introduced me to Ryan Schroeder, and it was love at first sight. And Ryan gave me a couple options of opportunities and potential and stuff like that, and I ended up jumping at it in January, and I've been here ever since and working with you clowns.
With you clowns. Well, thank you so much for your confidence. Yeah, so I've actually heard that comparison before, that DRG is like the VSM of Minneapolis, and VSM is the DRG of St. Paul. So you probably feel a little bit at home from the previous experience and whatnot. I'm kind of curious what not to plug VSM or anything, but what kind of brought you on board, specifically?
One of the things that I've always tried to do is surround myself with people that are smarter than me and think differently than me. I've got a certain way of doing things and a certain way of thinking that I need different kinds of thought coming into my mind. And when I met Ryan and I met Daniel, I knew they were different. I knew they were different than any comfort level that I had in certain things. I knew that they were complementary to me. So when meeting with them, I just got the feeling of I can get a lot more intelligent. I can get a lot more strategic if I surround myself with these guys. And then, of course, I meet all you guys, and I'm like, these guys think way differently than me. We've got house hackers. We've got landlords. We've got people that like to do management, people that like to do leasing. And, I'm learning a lot from everybody. So I didn't necessarily know that coming in, but I knew I would get it from Daniel and Ryan. And I'm a little surprised I'm getting it from everybody, and to see the passion from some of you guys, too.
Yeah. I think that just so far that you've been here, actually gained quite a bit, and I feel like you're hustling really hard and making a lot of good changes. So, I think that adding you to the team has been really awesome as a broker. And just like last night, you've been like super responsive. I had, posted a quick question to you, and you're like, oh yeah, it's just this. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so good to have a resource.
Yeah, the nice part.
Experienced.
The nice part about that stuff is I've been through it now. And when I was going through like your example over email last night, I was asking people the same questions, and I found that in this industry, whether you want to get started as a realtor or you are one, you need people around you that are willing to help you.
True. Yeah.
And I don't think an agent can come off the streets as a 22-year-old out of college and make it without help of someone. And I don't think people that do 10 to 20 deals a year can get away with not getting help from someone. And so I get help from people too when I get into tough situations, and sometimes that's lawyers, sometimes that's other agents, sometimes that's you guys, because I don't know some of the aspects of what we do at VSM as well as you guys do yet. So, I like helping the team. That's why I'm here. If I wanted, I've said this to everybody at this company, if I wanted to just grow myself, I could do that at any other brokerage, but I want to help grow the team and the brand here.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm actually really amazed that you cut out enough time to actually serve, the rest of the team and whatnot, because you're like just really a heavy hitter, when it comes to sales. So I don't know how you find the time to help us.
Sometimes I laugh because I think I do a lot of deals, and then I look at like some of my friends, and I'm like, holy crap, how do they do it? Like they do double my business and somehow maintain some level of sanity. And my wife will watch this eventually, and I'll just put a plug in for her because it's really, really hard on family, you know, because you want to build something that eventually, I've heard you use the term dynastic wealth, right? Like I'm not trying to build my monthly income or anything like that. I want to build something cool so that if my son wants to be a realtor, I won't let him, but I would be able to give him something special,
right?
And clients that come along with it because I've treated them well over the years. So
yeah, I know that there's a saying in Chinese. I'll try to just say the English version, but it's like the people that come before plant the tree, and then the people that come after sit in the shade. And that it seems like you're kind of that mindset, building, something that will last for a while, and particularly in business. I know that that's actually something that's huge and kind of your shtick of building relationships way more than, just something that's transactional. That was probably like one of the first things I understood and was picking up when you were introducing yourself and kind of telling your story to everybody here at VSM. And I know that, in recent years you've been kind of building a team and whatnot. I'm kind of wondering what the mindset is needed to start building a team, and like how you decided to, like, what was the journey to start building that team, and maybe what the future is from here. I know it's a lot.
No, it's been a long one. It's been a long journey, a lot of bumps and bruises, a lot of dips in the road. And like you said, I try and build my business around relationships, and everybody that watches this podcast that's a client, of mine, I hope knows that. There's definitely some clients along the way that I haven't made happy or haven't been able to maintain a relationship with because you get busy or distance or not a lot in common or whatever.
Right.
But I really do take it seriously. This is people's, we joke about you spend 6 months to a year researching a car purchase. With a house, you walk in at one time in this market and you have to make a decision. And I want to make sure people are comfortable spending $150,000 or $1 million on a house. And so that's important to me. And it's probably, I think, a little different than some of the agents that I've worked with that I don't know well. It's not transactional. And if it's transactional, you're going to be burning yourself out every year to try and get to the level you were at before. As it relates to the team stuff, I mean, I have not figured it out. As I've gotten more busy, I want to maintain that level of happiness amongst my clients, and it's just hard because you can't be in 5 places at once. So Ann has been helping me for almost 9 months now. She's been a godsend. She's been outstanding.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah, and she's dangerous now. I mean, she knows how to do all the forms. She knows how to do the showing. She can write offers. She can negotiate. She knows it very well, and I'm thankful to have her. And Joe Harris, too, brought him over with me from the pro team, and he's just been super helpful, and he's painting his own path as well. But I haven't really figured out the perfect the perfect team. I mean, I throw a lot of shade at my old business partner BJ, but we had something special for a little while, and it's just hard to maintain it over a long period of time. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just there's so many things that stand in your way from having harmony and peace and success at the same time. You know, so I don't know. I don't know what the future holds in terms of how it's built out or anything like that. I do know one thing is that I don't want to compete with my own agents. So I don't want to build a mini team within VSM here that is out there competing for the same listings that you are and the other agents are. So I'm trying to be cognizant of that too, because I want people to feel like as the broker they can come to me and ask any questions.
And that's huge.
Sure. Ask any questions and trust me, and not because it's. And I think that can get muddied a little bit with some of the other business models I've seen. But there's so many different business models out there that I just can't hone in on one that I just love, because at the end of the day, down the road, somebody's treated unfairly, whether you set it up that way or not. And so finding one that's fair to everybody is just hard, and I'm working towards it.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm an overly generous guy, but at the end of the day, you have to take care of your own family too. So it's just it's a tough balance, and I respect the people that have figured it out, especially over the long term. And there's a lot of great teams out there. Some married couples that are great teams, which just shocks me. You know,
I've seen that too.
You know,
like,
so
I don't know how you can go home and like be able to talk about business.
No,
there must be like some strict lines on that,
Right.
So
Yeah, Jess does not ask me too many times about finishes of our kitchen or bathroom, and that's relieving because I don't want to go home and talk about that stuff. So yeah, it'd be interesting to have like a married team, or these long teams. Barry Berg, Chad Larson, they're a big one downtown. I mean, they do a lot of business in Minneapolis. They've been together at what seems like forever, and they've built out a great team, and they seem to have a great partnership, at least from the outside looking in. So it's teams like that where I look up to, and I haven't sat down with them to ask them what the magic sauce is, but I imagine it's kind of like marriage, finding somebody that you feel like can complete you.
For sure.
And building that team together, and then just throwing all your trust at them.
Yeah,
and vice versa. But those people are hard to find.
Yeah, no doubt. That kind of, last week on the podcast when we were talking with Ryan and Daniel, mentorship was like kind of a huge thing. Do you have, any mentors that you look up to? I know that you were kind of talking about, we're trying to continually to develop this model to, make it really great and kind of build the team and whatnot. Is there anybody that you kind of look up to or that you take notes from?
I don't have anybody I consider like my true mentor in this career, but I will tell you that I have like 30 people that I go to on almost a weekly basis. And just, if it's not a pep talk, it's something else. I mean, even Jake, I have a lot of good conversations with Jake, and he's got a different perspective, and he does a lot of soul searching in his own life, and it helps me. It helps me learn. So, I could throw out Ryan Fisher, Spencer Hutton, Ryan Pertelli, Jay Edinger, Eric Patterson, Joe Grenay, Ryan Schroeder, Daniel Kurkowski. There's just so many people that help me along the way, and that's why I feel like I need to help people along the way too. So, and then in terms of mentoring other people, I don't think anybody necessarily considers me their mentor either. But there's not one person I wouldn't help. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There's probably people I wouldn't help if they weren't nice to me or something like that. But the bottom line is again, I think in this career, everybody should be helping others, and so often us agents get in each other's ways, and we pound our feet on our hands on our chest, or we draw a line in the sand, and that's not the way to get deals done.
Sure.
It's not the way to get our sellers and our buyers happy. So yeah, mentoring is to me should be more of a broader term. But I do think you need to have a good, close group to be able to go to and ask questions for sure. Especially just about life, career, not like, hey, I got into a weird situation here with closing costs. Like, no, those aren't the questions you ask. You go ask a lender. You ask your group questions about dealing with people in a different way, and how to grow your business, and how to be a better family person. It's not all about business. I go to these. Most of my friends know everything about my life, and I want them to, because I want them to understand where I'm coming from, and a lot of times as you get older, and I think some of us have experienced this, is, you can't go out and hang out with everybody every night of the week. It's just not how it works. You got a job, you've got other responsibilities. I have a 5.5-year-old now, so every Friday night I'm not going out and hanging out with 10 of my buddies anymore. And the ones that understand that, are very helpful, and then there's some that don't understand why I can't help you.
What are you doing, man?
Yeah. Like, well, got that 5.5-year-old thing at home, and I need to take care of him.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So it sounds like it just all comes back to relationships,
It does. It does. And I think sometimes it's tough because, as you can tell, I'm a very transparent person. I think sometimes that becomes disingenuous. Like,
how so?
I think salespeople are associated with disingenuous relationships sometimes. Like, we're in it because we want to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and make it quite the opposite. Like, I want to get to know a person. I had a listing appointment here last week. I was telling Jake about it. I want to get to know a person to make sure that I want to work with them too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want this job. This job is hard.
Mm-hmm.
This job is, like I joked about my son not being a realtor. It's hard. Mm-hmm. And so when I work with people, I want them to be good people. And so I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. And I just started realizing that over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was like, take every deal, try and get every deal done. But you make people unhappy and you make yourself unhappy in the process. And like I said, I think it comes off disingenuous sometimes because I'm so focused on the relationship. But I feel like realtors in general, we can all sell homes. Mm-hmm. So really, what differentiates us? It's not some Facebook marketing program. It's not social media. It's not, I have a great email campaign, or I hire the best photographer. Like, we all use similar people. Mm-hmm. So what do we have to differentiate ourselves? It's the relationship part. I want to make sure we're on the same page with everything. So if we get into the line of fire, we can strategize together versus have this combative relationship where now who's representing who? Like, am I representing you, or am I representing the other clients or the other agent? And so I'm preaching that a great deal, especially I have another listing appointment today, and I'll do the same thing. Mm-hmm. If I don't get a great vibe, I'm happy to compete. Mm-hmm. But if I don't get a great vibe, I don't think it's a good fit.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough when you get going in this career to do that because you got to put food on the table and you have to get deals.
True.
But it's not worth the cost of your soul. This is getting deep.
No doubt. So, actually, I think I really wish that you I knew you in my first year because my entire mindset, I think, was way off kilter. I was kind of coming at it where, like, I have a chip on my shoulder. I'm, like, out to get the world, and the world's out to get me. And I felt like there was, a lot more competition. And, after that first year, I really realized that collaboration is much more beneficial for everybody. It's easier rather than competition. Of course, there's a certain point where you want to compete to win a business.
Absolutely.
But, when it comes to getting a deal done or whatever, collaboration is super key.
Yep.
So, I think that everybody can learn, from,
all of our mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah,
for sure.
But, speaking of mistakes, do you have, like, a biggest lesson that you've learned in real estate so far?
Yeah, I've got a few of them. One was recent. Because I feel like I care so much, sometimes I just get too creative. Like,
for your own good, you're too smart for your own good kind of thing.
It's kind of like, okay, if we can get this all to work out for you, Mr. Buyer or Miss Buyer or Miss Seller, Mr. Seller, if all these dominoes fall into place. And for so many years of my career, those dominoes would fall into place, and but I'm worried along the way. They're worried along the way. And so just recently, I've done a couple deals where we've had some dominoes, and recently I had a client that just did not treat me very well, and it went south really fast. And the other agent might listen to this at some point, and I think he understands too. Mm-hmm. But I made the mistake of getting too creative, and the whole deal fell apart, and it cost me money, and it's just unfortunate. But we make mistakes all the time. I think the number one thing that's frustrating for people that I've seen, sellers, buyers, other agents, brokers, management companies, is people don't own up to it. Mm-hmm. My famous story is I I was the listing agent. There was an inspection being done. The inspector clearly broke the top of this stove when he was there. And then the buyer asked to have it fixed as part of the inspection asks.
Right.
And I was just torn, right?
Right.
And then I asked the inspector, and he said, I'm a very religious, God-fearing man. I would never do something like that. And it's like, that's just not it just wasn't, it didn't fit well at all with everything that was going on. And and everybody got frustrated as a result. So if you do something wrong out there, I think people understand.
Right.
As long as you're not trying to do it illegally, or you're trying to do it to, skirt serious issues, or you're you're withholding something that somebody should know about.
Right, for sure.
But I make mistakes all the time. I bet you once a week for sure, and none of them are like material where my clients suffer or I necessarily suffer, but you pick up the pieces and it ends up working out. But you just have to own it.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
And it's I bet you it's the number one problem with most people. We don't own our own crap.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are really, and of course maybe we're getting into deep philosophical kind of stuff
we
now.
Are a little bit today. That's okay.
But yeah, we just go wherever we go.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that a lot of people are afraid to take that responsibility or to own up to something, and of course I think they should look at it the other way, because it's actually probably one of the most empowering things you can do is taking as much responsibility as possible. And that's something that I learned, over the course of like 1 or 2 years being in real estate, becoming, self-employed, a business owner, all this kind of stuff. Like you will be frozen solid if you, fear if you can't take responsibility and you can't like own up to things and whatnot. So like, yeah,
it's crippling.
It is. It really is. So like, and usually people are like, hey, you've admitted your mistake and whatnot, we'll kind of get through this. They might still have, a little bit of a edge, towards you, but like at the same time, it's going to be
sleep and
right for sure, and that everybody eventually becomes amicable. So, but yeah, so. Yeah, and then, of course, we all make mistakes. I know that, sometimes you got to eat crap every day, basically, in this game. But
in sales in general, and I think in real estate too, a lot of times we take the mistakes on as the realtor, whether you're the buyer agent or the listing agent of everybody else, right?
It's true.
The inspector makes a mistake, well,
it's your fault.
It's your inspector that we hired, or the appraisal comes in low, and it's like, why did you let us overpay, or why didn't we list lower, or whatever it may be. We're always kind of on the hook for everyone else, but I think going into it and understanding that makes you pick better partners, and it makes you work harder up front, and that's what I always try and do, work harder up front so that you're not losing sleep every night over what might happen in these transactions. And that's part of the learning curve too. Again, it used to just be boom, 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 let's try and get through as many deals as we can here, and now it's much more it's much more like work up front so that you aren't as concerned moving forward. What did that sign just say?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
no doubt.
Jeez, that must be long-winded. We're only on question 2.
Yeah, question 1.5. So, you kind of shared your story and everything. I know that, before you had mentioned you weren't quite interested in real estate investing too much, but at the same time, I know you've invested in other businesses, and I know First Draft, I haven't had the pleasure of getting there yet, but whenever I talk with you or anybody else that's been there, it seems like it'd be an awesome place. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about the story of how you guys decided to, create First Draft, and what First Draft even is for listeners that don't know? Yeah,
so First Draft is a pour-your-own beer, wine, and cider place in the North Loop. It has a full commercial kitchen as well. And that is the perfect example of surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me and getting lucky too. So I'll throw a pitch out or a big boost out there to Andrew Valen, who's my local business partner on it. And he's the definition of that. Hard worker, just extremely intelligent. And he was the one that kind of had the idea to bring it to Minnesota. And he had asked me to find him commercial space. And that's how we initially met. And, to be honest with you, I'm not the best commercial agent in the world, and I refer that business to Daniel Kurkowski. So I had no idea. So we sat down and had a cup of coffee for 6 hours at a Dunn Brothers in St. Paul, and we kind of looked at each other, and it was a similar situation to myself and Ryan Schroeder, just love at first sight. Like we figured we should do this together, and then the ball started rolling, and we didn't really have the money, we didn't really have the expertise, we didn't have the location, we didn't have anything, but we got it started, and I think that's the big key, right? We got it started, so we wanted to get introduced to people who did it really well so they could mentor us, and we got introduced to them. They fell in love with Minneapolis and in love with us, and so between the 5 of us, we opened it up about a year ago now, and we're super jazzed. Yeah, the nice weather and the Twins' best record in baseball is not hurting things. We're right by the Twins Stadium, right by Fulton Brewery, modest inbound. We have a great GM. Everybody's been awesome. We have a great staff, and I'm very blessed to have that in my life, especially because of the amount of work that Andrew and the other partners put forward on it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely have to go.
Yeah,
and visit sometime.
54 beer, wine, ciders. So nice. Got water too.
Water too. Yeah.
Water and Diet Coke. Finally.
Yeah. So, I think that's pretty much all we have. For you today. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We'll probably have you on again pretty soon.
Yeah.
So
thanks for having me.
Yeah.